Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham.
And I'm Charlene Israel. A fiscal showdown today over Obamacare, the nation's budget, and the debt limit. Congressional Republicans are preparing legislation that the White House and Democratic lawmakers have vowed to kill. No signs of compromise today in Washington.
I've never seen a group of people more extreme than the hard-right Republicans in the House right now.
While the president is happy to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, he won't engage with the Congress on a plan that deals with the deficits that threaten our economy.
House Republicans vote today on a plan that would fund the government for 3 more months. But the bill also denies any funding for President Obama's health care law. Now, as that September 30th deadline approaches, President Obama is appealing to the American people. In a speech near Kansas City, Missouri, he said Congress can't be allowed to jeopardize the fragile economy. But a majority of Americans don't want Obamacare. According to a recent NBC Wall Street Journal poll, 44% of Americans think the president's health care law is a bad idea. Only 31% think it's a good idea. Senate Democrats vow to keep the bill from passing.
Any bill that defunds Obamacare is dead. It's a waste of time.
And as if one showdown isn't enough, another is looming. The federal government reaches its debt limit in mid to late October. Republicans say they'll only agree to raise the debt ceiling if President Obama agrees to more spending cuts and delays implementing the health care law.
I will not negotiate over the full faith and credit of the United States.
And the Office of Management and Budget issued a memo to government agencies urging them to prepare for a partial government shutdown.
The House of Representatives passed a bill that slashes billions of dollars from the nation's food stamp program. The measure cuts nearly $4 billion a year. Republicans say savings would be achieved by allowing states to put new work requirements in place for food stamp recipients. It would also end government waivers that have allowed able-bodied adults without dependents to receive food stamps indefinitely.
House Republicans came out blasting over Benghazi again Thursday. This time they aimed their fire at the men charged with reviewing U.S. actions before and during the deadly terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya last year. Paul Strand has the story from Washington.
Former UN Ambassador Thomas Pickering and former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mike Mullen defended their Benghazi review before skeptical GOP lawmakers.
This was not, quote, a gotcha investigative panel. The responsibilities were to provide recommendations to see that we do our best never to let this happen again.
Obviously, this was not a gotcha panel because nobody was gotcha'd.
And Mullen was quick to insist American forces could not have rushed to the rescue in time to save the 4 Americans killed during the 9/11/2012 attack.
The military did everything they possibly could that night. They just couldn't get there in time.
But Republicans like Utah's Jason Shavitz and Florida's John Mica were having none of it.
It is embarrassment to the United States of America that we could not get those assets there in time to help those people. We didn't even try. We didn't ask for permission. We didn't ask for flight clearances. We didn't even stand up the assets that we had in Europe. Didn't even try.
I just disagree with what you're saying, Mr. Chairman.
There is no reason that we couldn't launch from at least 3 locations I've visited and been told that we have in place people monitoring the situation, particular and specifically in Africa and North Africa.
As for House Democrats, they mostly expressed anger at how their GOP colleagues treated Pickering and Mullen at this hearing.
I am so outraged by the conduct of this committee today.
But Micah said he's fighting for all those Americans still frustrated over Benghazi.
Nobody's been fired. Nobody's been dismissed. No one's been arrested for the murders.
Later in the day, the panel heard from relatives of the men who died at Benghazi. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
President Obama and Iran's President Hassan Rouhani could meet next week. Both leaders are scheduled to address the UN General Assembly on Tuesday. They've already exchanged letters, and it's raising expectations for a thaw in the country's tense relations. A long-standing dispute over Tehran's nuclear program is at the heart of the U.S.-Iran impasse. Political observers say Rouhani represents himself as a moderate, but is really just playing for time to allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons.
Pope Francis is calling on the Catholic Church to put more emphasis on grace and mercy and less on moral issues like abortion and homosexuality. In an interview with an Italian Jesuit magazine, the Pope says the Church has focused too much on, quote, small-minded rules. Francis said the most important thing is the first proclamation, Jesus Christ has saved you. Then we can talk about everything else. Francis did say that the Church teaching hasn't changed on issues like abortion and homosexuality.
A homeschooling family in Germany is together again. The government had taken the Wunderlich children from their parents because of their home education. After a hearing Thursday in Germany, a temporary solution was put into place to give the children back to their parents. The Wunderlichs have agreed to send their children to school. We spoke with Mike Donnelly of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. He says this isn't a victory for the Wunderlich family or for homeschoolers.
This is a victory for a totalitarian regime that is bent on dictating to parents what they can and can't do with their children regarding their education. The Wunderlichs are very happy to have their children home today, but they should never have been taken. And we are very concerned about Germany's behavior in this area.
A hearing will be held in December to decide if the Wunderlichs will be given permanent custody of their children.
The man who shot a security guard at the Family Research Council last year has been sentenced to 25 years in prison. In August 2012, Floyd Lee Corkins shot security guard Leo Johnson while trying to enter the building. Corkins was targeting the FRC because of its views, including its opposition to gay marriage. He said he planned to kill as many employees as possible and then smear Chick-fil-A sandwiches on their faces as a political statement. At the hearing, Johnson said he forgave Corkins for shooting him.
Actor Kirk Cameron releases a new documentary next week called Unstoppable. In it, he explores an age-old question. Why does God allow suffering and evil in the world?
Cameron sat down with CBN News for a special preview. Here's Paul Strand.
Why does God let bad things happen to good people? If God is good and He is a God of love and He is powerful enough to stop evil and pain and suffering, why doesn't He? That is the question that wrecks people's faith.
CBN News caught up with Cameron in New York on his movie tour. His latest project, Unstoppable, is based on a true story. Cameron said he lost a teenage friend to cancer, and that sent him searching for answers.
That event really hit me hard. It really pulled all of the air out of my lungs because this was a good boy. This was a boy from a great family who loved God and went to church. And when he died and God did not heal him in spite of all the prayers, in spite of all of the people crying out to God, it really caused me to ask the big question, where is God in the midst of my tragedy?
Cameron said Unstoppable takes him on the most personal journey of his life where he has to examine his own faith. And he does it by going all the way back to the origins of good and evil.
What I discovered is that it's much better to understand your tragedy and mine in the context of a much larger story. And so what I do is I try to take you up to heaven's balcony and give you a wide-angle lens view of history. And we start in the Garden of Eden.
Tried to be a good boy, but I ain't a boy no more.
In Unstoppable, Cameron said he overcomes his own doubts and that he comes out on the other side of this meat grinder, even stronger in his faith.
Regardless of our background, whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or atheist or agnostic, we all ask this question. It's easy to be excited about your beliefs, whatever they are, when things are going well in your life, when you're happy and healthy. But when the roof comes down and you get hit by something that you didn't see coming, all of a sudden the questions begin. And I think you will come out the other end of this movie not having your faith shredded, like has happened to many, but you will have it strengthened like it did for me.
Back in July, Unstoppable created a social media firestorm when Facebook and YouTube blocked access to the movie trailer. But that's when more than 500,000 of the actor's fans rallied around him. Both sites ended up lifting the ban. Unstoppable opens in theaters September 24th. And Cameron said he wants to settle once and for all that good is stronger than evil and that faith is stronger than doubt. Paul Strand, CBN News.
Coming up, serious Christian leaders gather for prayer and support A report from inside this historic meeting.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dollar. He taught me the true value of this paper dollar. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I'll explain the simple truth about money.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Turning to that massive flooding in Mexico where thousands of tourists are stranded in the resort city of Acapulco. Dozens of people are missing. Hurricane Manuel and Tropical Storm Ingrid hit the area on both coastlines this week, causing major flooding and claiming at least 97 lives. Those stranded may be able to get out today. The Transportation Secretary hopes to reconnect the highway that goes from Acapulco resorts to the mainland. Until then, cargo ships are bringing supplies to the city, and relief teams from Operation Blessing are on site.
Operation Blessing is going in with water purification units, mobile kitchens, food distribution to help those that are most in need.
About 10,000 tourists have been airlifted out of Acapulco. Thousands of others are still stranded. The floods are also causing landslides. One north of the city buried a village church and several homes.
Western-backed Syrian rebels say radical Islamists are trying to establish an Islamic state in Syria. The Syrian National Coalition said the expanding influence of radical groups is a threat to the goals the revolution is trying to achieve. The statement follows days of violent confrontations during which extremists seized the northern town of Azaz from mainstream opposition fighters.
Syria Christians warn that Christianity could become non-existent in Syria if the militant Islamists seize control of the country. CBN's Gary Lane talked with a U.S. missionary fresh back from meetings with Syrian church leaders in the region.
Joining us from the Voice of the Martyrs is Todd Nettleton. He's fresh back from the Middle East. Todd, you met with some Syrian pastors. What did they tell you?
There's sort of good news and bad news. The good news is that the church is growing. The faith of our Christian brothers and sisters is being strengthened. The bad news is there's persecution. It's coming with a cost, and there's kidnappings, there's people being taken for ransom, there's people being killed. So the level of persecution is very high, but at the same time, the church is growing.
Now, as you were there was a attack on Malula. That's a Christian town, an ancient Christian town, where they actually speak the language of Jesus. They still do that. Was there concern for Malula?
Well, there was great concern, and one of the things that they pointed out to us is that there's not a government presence there, there's not an army presence there. It wasn't targeted for any kind of military reason. It was targeted because it's a Christian village. It was targeted as targeting Christians, not targeting the government. And the Christians that we talked to wanted to be sure that that was clear to the American audience, that this wasn't a part of the war with the government. This was part of an attack on Christians.
Okay, now we know that many of the Christians and probably some of the pastors that you met with are very concerned that about half of all rebel fighters are militants. They're jihadists, and some of them even part of al-Qaeda or affiliated with al-Qaeda. What are their concerns about the future if these guys come to power?
So they don't call them freedom fighters. They don't call them rebels. They use the word terrorists. And one of the questions we got as the discussion was going on about American involvement, several of them just looked us in the eye and said, why would America help the terrorists? Why would they do that? Christians are being told to leave their homes, Christian villages. The rebels will go in and announce from the loudspeakers of the mosques, hey, Christians, you have 48 hours to leave the village or else. And so when they think about the rebels taking control of the whole country, they know that will mean more intense persecution and more martyrdoms of Christians in Syria. As we talk about Syria, you know, as Americans, we like the good guy and the bad guy story, and the good guys wear white hats and the bad guys wear black hats. Well, in Syria, there aren't any guys wearing white hats. There aren't any good guys. It's just a level of who's going to be worse for the Christians. And the Christians there, the Assad government has tolerated them. There has been a certain level of freedom. What we heard when we were there is that right now the Assad government is so worried about the war, they're so worried about the rebels, they really don't have time to worry about the churches and to worry about persecuting the Christians.
What can we do? We get that question a lot here.
Well, the first thing we can do is pray, and that was one of the things that all of the Syrian Christians that we talked to wanted to emphasize is how desperately Syria needs our prayers during these days and during these times. There is a need for help, but the first step is we desperately need to be in prayer for the country of Syria and especially for those of the household of faith, those of our Christian brothers and sisters who are there.
Okay, Todd Nettleton, we appreciate the work you're doing for the persecuted church, also VOM. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Up next, Dateline Jerusalem. Our Middle East Bureau Chief shares some of the biggest stories and his personal reflections of more than a decade of living and reporting in the Holy Land.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
For the past 12 years, CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has brought us stories from Israel and across the region. Now he's recorded some of his experiences in a new book called Dateline Jerusalem.
That's right. Recently, Chris sat down with CBN's Scott Ross to talk about his new book and the events unfolding across the volatile Middle East.
Correspondent Chris Mitchell brought his family to Israel 12 years ago to establish CBN's Middle East News Bureau in Jerusalem.
Where are we? Jerusalem, center of the world.
What is all this behind us?
All this is the Mount of Olives there in the background, the old city with the Temple Mount where the first and second temples used to be. This is the place where history's final chapter is going to be written, right here.
Wow. On my recent trip to Israel, I asked him what he's learned, why he wrote his new book, and what he sees for the future of Jerusalem. Why did you come?
Well, I felt God called us. In fact, a good friend of yours, Derek Prince, he was getting out of the British Army and he talked to an elderly Jewish woman, asked and told her he wanted to live in Jerusalem. Well, she said to him, Derek, you don't choose Jerusalem, Jerusalem chooses you.
When he heard that story, Mitchell says he knew Jerusalem had chosen him. With his wife and 3 children, he arrived in August 2000, just 5 weeks before the second Intifada erupted, with almost daily suicide bombings and terror attacks. Now, you've been here during a time of war. How have you responded to that on a daily basis?
We know God called us, and the scriptures in Psalm 91, that he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. And whether it's the second Intifada in 2000 to 2004, the second Lebanon War in 2006, or the threat of Iran nuclear war, that's the scripture that keeps us.
Mitchell has been on the scene of wars and rumors of wars.
Right now, we're just running back into the bomb shelter.
Terror attacks and peace talks, revolution and refugees.
And many of these Syrian refugees here are experiencing the love of Christians.
He's also covered stories on the brighter side, from groundbreaking archaeological discoveries.
They also discovered a pottery shard with the name Elisha on it.
To Israel's life-saving heart surgery on children from enemy countries. But the stories that stand out the most, he says, are the ones that relate to the Bible. Out of all the stories you've covered in 12 years of reporting, are there any particular stories that stand out in your mind?
When we took a 3-day voyage from Odessa in the former Soviet Union to Haifa. And it was a 3-day voyage, but it was a 3,000-year promise in the making. When Jeremiah said that he would bring his people back here. It's like the Jews returning to the land. It's the settling on the mountains of Israel. You know, the world calls the mountains of Israel, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. But if you look at it deeper and look at it from a biblical point of view, these are the lands that God promised to Abraham. So this is the biblical heritage that we get to walk in and report on.
For Mitchell, the news is more than individual stories. He sees a theme emerging that ties world events to the final battle for Jerusalem. What does this mean to you as a man living here with your family, doing your news reports, etc.?
You know, 2,000 years ago, it was said that all roads lead to Rome. 2,000 years later, I would feel that all roads are leading to Jerusalem. And whether it's Christians praying for the peace of Jerusalem like never before, or if it's about Jews that are coming back to this city and fulfilling a dream of 2,000 years, or if it's radical Muslims who want to see Jerusalem as the capital of a caliphate, all roads for good and evil seem to be leading back here.
On the political question, what about the dividing of Jerusalem, the Palestinian capital? How do you respond to that?
I don't think the Jews will ever give it back. I don't think they'll divide it. And despite what the Palestinians want and what the world may demand, I think that the Jews will never give back the city of Jerusalem, and this will be the final battle.
And the culmination of that world focus on Jerusalem led to his book. You've written a book, Chris. Dateline Jerusalem. This is 12 years of experience in your past and also some of the things we've been talking about here. Why'd you write the book?
There's a scripture in the Old Testament which said the sons of Issachar understood the times and they knew what Israel should do. And I hope that people reading Dateline Jerusalem could help understand the times and know what they should do.
And what should the Christian response be? Does prayer make a difference?
Prayer, it seems almost, could be the rudder of history during these days. Now, we know certain things are going to happen regardless because that's what the Word says. But I think God wants to partner with us in prayer in these last days.
As a man, how have you changed living in this land over the last 12 years? What's it done to you?
I think it's given me, hopefully, a better perspective about the times that we live in and how important it is for everyone to be prepared to meet the Lord, whether it's, tomorrow or 10 years from now. It's made me feel like it's so important to get right with God and get it right and to follow Him. Because whether you're here in Jerusalem and things are dangerous, you need him. And whether you're somewhere in New York City or Los Angeles or St. Louis, you need him.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you going to do? You're going to drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG. In theaters October 4th.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you going to do? You're going to drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG. In theaters October 4th.
Finally, this week marks National POW and MIA Day. Today, the country will remember soldiers captured or lost during war.
One veteran recognizes the day by completing his mission, one that has taken exactly 58,282 miles. Michael Bowen is steps away from reaching his goal. In 1982, he vowed to run 1 mile for every name carved on the Vietnam Memorial. The Flag Man, as he is called, battled cancer and knee surgeries during the journey. He earned that nickname because he carries the flag for POWs and those missing in action.
I have a little guilt complex because I didn't have to serve. I didn't get wounded. I was in during the war, but not in the war. I was in Germany. I got about 20 miles to go. It's almost hard to believe, but it's here. I'm happy. It's my own personal mission. It's almost over.
It has taken more than 3 decades. Today, he ends his mission exactly where it began, at the Vietnam Memorial. Bowen says he will continue to run and carry the flag with him. God bless him.
He's a true patriot, isn't he?
Indeed he is.
Endured all of that hardship and continued to go. God bless him. Well, that's it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
Have a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend.
That is amazing.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. all the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.